The forest was dark and full of shadows as a little girl named Sylvie hurried through it one warm evening in June. It was already 8 o'clock, and Sylvie wondered if her grandmother would be upset because she was so late. Every evening, Sylvie left her grandmother's house at 5:30 to bring their cow home. The old cow spent the day eating grass in the open fields. Sylvie's job was to find her and guide her home for milking. But the cow always liked to hide among the bushes when Sylvie called for her. This evening, it took Sylvie longer than usual to find the cow. She was in a rush as she led the cow through the dark forest along a narrow path toward her grandmother's house. The cow stopped at a small stream to drink. While she waited, Sylvie dipped her bare feet into the cold, fresh water. Sylvie had never been in the forest this late before. The air was soft and sweet. She felt like she was part of the shadows and the silver leaves moving in the evening breeze. As she stood there, she thought about how only a year ago she had moved to her grandmother's farm. Before that, she had lived with her parents in a noisy, crowded factory town. When Sylvie's grandmother visited them, she chose Sylvie to come and live with her on the farm in Vermont. The cow finished drinking, and Sylvie hurried through the forest, thinking about how much she loved her quiet new home. She didn't miss the noisy town where her parents still lived. Suddenly, Sylvie heard a sharp whistle close by. It wasn't the whistle of a bird. It sounded like a person. She quickly hid in some bushes, but it was too late. "Hello, little girl," called a cheerful voice. "How far is it to the main road?" Sylvie, shaking with fear, whispered, 2 miles. She stepped out of the bushes and saw a tall young man holding a gun. The young man walked with Sylvie as she led the cow. "I've been hunting birds," he said, "but I've lost my way. Could I spend the night at your house?" Sylvie didn't answer, but she was glad they were almost home. She saw her grandmother standing at the door. When they reached the house, the young man put down his gun and explained his situation. Sylvie's grandmother smiled and said, "Of course you can stay. We don't have much, but you're welcome to what we have. Sylvie, get the gentleman a plate." After dinner, they sat outside. The man explained he was a scientist who collected birds. "Do you put them in cages?" Sylvie asked. "No," he said slowly. "I shoot them and stuff them with chemicals to preserve them. I have over 100 birds from all over the country." "Sylvie knows a lot about birds," her grandmother said proudly. "She knows the forest so well that wild animals eat bread right from her hands." "Maybe Sylvie can help me," the man said. "I saw a white heron here 2 days ago. It's a very rare bird. Have you seen it?" Sylvie stayed silent. "You'd recognize it," he continued. "It's a tall bird with white feathers and long legs. It probably has a nest high in a tree." Sylvie's heart beat faster. She had seen that white bird. She knew where it lived. The young man said, "I'll pay $10 to whoever shows me the white heron." That night, Sylvie dreamed of all the things her grandmother could buy with $10. The next day, Sylvie spent hours in the forest with the young man. He told her many things about birds, but Sylvie didn't like how he carried his gun. Every time he shot a bird, Sylvie felt her heart ache. Still, Sylvie admired the young man. He was handsome and kind, and she felt something new, a feeling she didn't understand. That night, as the young man slept, Sylvie stayed awake. She had a plan. At sunrise, she would climb a tall pine tree to see where the white heron had its nest. Before dawn, Sylvie quietly left the house and went to the tallest tree in the forest. Her bare feet and small hands grabbed the rough trunk as she climbed higher and higher. The sticky sap made her fingers stiff, and the sharp branches scratched her skin. At last, Sylvie reached the top. The first rays of sunlight lit up the forest. She could see farms and fields far away. Suddenly, Sylvie saw the white heron flying to a tree nearby. She watched it land on a branch and call to its mate in their nest. Sylvie climbed down slowly, even though her hands and feet hurt. She couldn't wait to tell the young man about the heron. When she got home, both her grandmother and the young man were waiting. Sylvie knew this was the moment to tell her secret. The young man looked at her kindly. Her grandmother scolded her for being out so early. But Sylvie stayed silent. She remembered the beauty of the heron and the sunrise. The young man left later that day, disappointed. He never came back, and Sylvie often thought about him. Was the white heron a better friend than he might have been? Sylvie could only wonder.